use your insecurities as your strength or use them as your driving force. So whatever you're insecure about, whether it be your knowledge around something, whether it be financials, lean into it. Lean into that insecurity, because that'll be a driving force then behind you. If you are sitting there and you're having imposter syndrome, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't feel as I'm as educated as I should be, then you're going to lean into that and you'll go and educate yourself. You know what I mean? So that can be a huge driving force.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Liam.
This is The Playbook.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. So I've got my intro prepared for you. So today with us, we have someone who has built up a personal brand from scratch, both online and offline, working on adapting new environments. To date, he has over 40 members under his guidance as part of the online coaching business. If this man isn't operating at peak performance, I don't know who is. Ladies and gentlemen, Leon McKeowan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Welcome, Liam. Welcome.
Didn't realize I was going to get that much of an intro.
That's all the good praise you get for the day. So
it's done. It's enough.
Yeah, so as we normally do when we have someone on, we literally just sit down for a chat, talk about, I suppose, what's gotten you to here. Just tell us, where did it all begin?
So Maynooth. No, I'm only joking. No, back in, I think it was 3 years ago now, I'm coaching. So I currently have an online coaching company. I've only opened that since last year, I believe. So that's only like quite relatively new. But I've been coaching for the last 2.5 years. Had a gym back in Carrickmacross. Like, that was good. But like, when you have an idea of kind of what you want to do, you always have that gut instinct of what you want to follow on. Kind of followed that. And then one thing led to another. And then it was either push or fall. You know what I mean? It's either you going all in one, just on the one thing, or you do nothing else. Like, so that's what led me out here. And now I'm full-time online, doing the dream job, what I want to do. So I'm happy about that. Like,
Getting a bit of sun while you're at it.
Yeah, can't beat them.
Main thing.
Yeah.
Give Dean a shout out back at home. Embassy, Barbell.
The big man. Embassy, Barbell. Embassy now, so it is, in Carrickmacross. If anybody who is watching this is in and around the vicinity, don't miss out.
Good man.
It's a good gym.
Some facility.
It is a good gym. Hi. The equipment, the atmosphere, everything else about it, like it's up there. Yeah. One of the best. Not what you'd see in Monaghan.
No, that's for sure. It's not your typical. It's not a GAA gym.
No.
What like you're speaking, like you're only 24, same as us, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What drove you towards online coaching, setting up a gym? What drove you away from university? Like, was that something that you always felt like you was called to, or why did you switch out of university and kind of mainstream education?
I graduated with a degree in accounting, so it was always my elbow. It was like pushing me to go and do that, like the typical story of your dad wanting to do something. You know what I mean? So that was always the case up until about like 3 years ago. I think it was the year of COVID. I look back at COVID and I'm like, thank God that happened. You know what I mean? Because I'd say I'd be in a very different position, because I remember the quality of college like went down relatively quick, and I was enjoying it. Like, I'd say I probably would be an accountant today if COVID didn't happen. You know what I mean? Remember, came into the last stint of it, and that's when Dean had the personal training studio back home, Dean McMahon. And then one thing fell onto another. I was already into fitness, but like I was already coming from like a business background, and I was getting to that stage of college where it was like, just dragging on now. Kind of wanted something bigger. And I never thought it was going to be like a long-term thing. When you start something, you never really, I don't know, it's one of those things, again, I always relate back to like, your gut instinct when you're just making decisions on what you want to do. I think that is the best thing you can always go off. Yeah. And that was the case 3 years ago when we opened the personal training studio. And then one thing led on to another. Now, one of the bigger reasons behind that as well was financials. Like, there's a lot of money in PT. You know what I mean? Like, it is crashing with financials there. And I would have never been in a position where I would have been like always having deep pockets. You know what I mean? So I think that was like part and parcel of it. Once you see cash coming in a good job, like you're always like kind of like it now. Yeah. Then like I think always the passion comes afterwards. You're doing it for like one purpose at the moment. I never had a passion for coaching back then, but the more people you have, the longer you do it, kind of more kind of lights the fire in you. Yeah. One thing led on to another, like, and I think like the driver for what I have now is probably like looking back at what I've achieved from the amount of people that I've helped, the business that is ongoing now, I think like it's because there's just so much energy in it is probably a huge driver, you know. I think that's been like one of the key ones that's kept me going there today.
What did it look like? So from the stages of you going from taking on your first clients at home to opening that gym with Dean, like that's a huge step. What did that look like at the time?
Yeah, that was actually insane. Hey, like I actually love reflecting on that. So we had the PT studio. There was no word about a gym, right? There was no gym in Monaghan, you know what I mean? Now we were killing it. Me and Dean were like, you know, like a duo. Like we'd have both the PT, only ones who were like with an Instagram back home. Like it was really, really cool. And I remember James Darcy, he had a gym up in RD. I think we were on the way back from it one day. I think James actually suggested it and we were on the way back and we were like, gym would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? We were like, yeah. And he was like, yeah. And I was just like, we open one like, and he was just like, yeah, I guess so. And that kind of led on from there. So like that was a turning point moment. But like one thing with anything you're doing business wise, like user relate to this 100%. Like there's never a certainty in it. You know, you always feel like you're falling forward, but you're moving forward, but you're falling at the same time. You know what I mean? That's what it always felt like with me and Dean. It was never like a time where we were like, this is definitely going to work. You know, even with the PT, it is definitely going to work. Like we had no idea which way that was kind of going, but I think like that is like one of the things about like business, entrepreneurship, what you are doing as well. You just have to have the certainty in the back of your head that something's going to come out of it, you know? And that was always it with the gym. The gym took off obviously because we were the first gym in fucking Carrick Crossing. I mean, how could it not take off? And then that was only 1.5 years into when I started PT. Likewise with Dean, I think he was doing a bit before me, but that's from when we opened the PT studio to when we actually opened the gym.
That's
like,
a big jump, like.
Pretty insane. It was a pretty big one for how long we were doing it as well. Like we were only there, not that long of a stretch.
That just shows the ambition though too.
Yeah,
and you know you spotted that gap in the market. There wasn't the gym there at the time.
Yeah,
and then obviously fair play to Dean. He's after moving to a bigger premises again.
Yeah,
you know you're obviously on to winner there because it's still going leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Big upgrade, big upgrade.
How do you find, like, did you find going into business with one, like somebody else a bit easier, but how has it been since you've obviously in a different part of the world from the person that you started the business with? Like, do you find yourself a bit more lonely or what have you found?
That was weird when we left because me and him, that was one thing like we always discussed as well. When I was leaving, that was probably the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. Leaving that gym, like there last year, it was in and around April, May. Came home from here. I'd started with a mentorship program for online. We were doing a mentorship with the gym then as well. So like we were doing both angles and both were like going in the right direction. But I know when I came home from visiting my girlfriend who's living out here, I was met with the choice. I was like, right, it's either I give up one. The girlfriend was going with the online business, like she wasn't coming home, you know. And if we were moving to that premises, it was going to happen because it was the upgrade that was coming. And I just rang Dean and I was just like, man, I don't know how to say this. And he was like, would you just say it? Like, and I was like, oh man, I don't know how to say it. And he was just telling me, and I was like, listen, do you just want to take things from here? Like, you know what I mean? Fucking difficult decision, but like want to reflect on, like we're still in a good position, the both of us right now. That was one thing we always touched on as well as we're going from looking at each other every single day for the last fucking 2.5 years now. Yeah. We're not going to see each other at all. That was scary. You know what I mean? Because the whole way through it, that me and him were like holding each other's hand basically. Like we were always there to back each other up. Yeah. Anytime he had a wobble in PT or even anytime we had a wobble in the gym, like we were doing it together. Yeah. And like sure as you know, when you're doing a business with two people, you're always stronger in it. Yeah. You know, it's strength in numbers. Like, so that was strange. Going off to do my own thing, more uncertainty to it. It was probably the same with him then, more uncertainty with him, you know, so it's a weird one. It is strange.
What did that decision-making process look like? Did you have to take time to think about it or did you know straight away that this is what has to be done when you come home from here?
Yeah. It came to my head in March, right? So that was March last year. I made the decision in May or June. Kind of started realizing it in March that Ashley wasn't coming home. And then I did ask Mark Coles. I wasn't even getting mentored by him. Do you know Mark Coles, the fitness professional?
Heard of him, yeah.
Yeah. He's over my mentorship. Like I wasn't even getting mentored by him. I remember I was like holding in all the emotion about it as well. I was like, I went up to him and I was like, Mark, listen, my girlfriend's after moving out to Dubai. I'm opening another gym premises now. I don't know what to do. What should I do? And he just looked at me and he was like, listen, if her values have changed, leave her. And I was like, what? He was like, if your values have changed, get rid of her. And I was like, fuck, right. But I suppose I took that home, like that word value, that was the key word, right? And like I was sat back and I remember I went home and I was like, right, there's obviously something what he said there. And he was like when you look at, that's when I started questioning my own values. I was like, what do I actually value more? Being a business owner or doing the online coaching? I was like, I really had to search for that. You know what I mean? So I remember I sat in that for, well, until I came home from Dubai in May when I went out to visit Ashleen. And then I made my decision, I think, on the flight on the way home, or maybe like a week after, you know what I mean? It was very quick after that. Yeah. But I think that's what started it from that March point. So there was about a 2-3 month gap. That word value will fucking get you places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you sit and think about values and stuff, you can really figure out what it is that you're leaning towards in life. Like,
that's a serious way of looking at it. Because obviously you said at that stage you didn't feel you had the passion for online coaching.
Yeah.
But when you compare that to, right, where am I finding the value? What are my values here? Is it running a gym, or is it improving people's life with the online coaching? Like, and you obviously found your passion in that moment. Like,
yeah, that's it. I think like the self-talk is always a big one. Like when you're looking to, like, it's a difficult one. Like the self-talk is big. Like, you know, you have to sit in yourself and like be like, right, what do I want to do? But I think there's always that element of like leap, and then you will find your feet. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're never going to be certain again. It relates back to what I said there a minute ago. Whenever you're doing it, and like from an entrepreneurship perspective, like you don't know what the fuck is going to happen. You never know what is the right decision. Like you just do it and then just give your best effort, and hopefully something good will come out of it, which it has. So I'm happy enough with that.
That period, like that feeling of uncertainty, is something that is really important. Like nobody, like you're able to say in hindsight that was a good decision, and people think like, look at that and like, oh, that was a good decision. But at the time you didn't know what you didn't know what the right choice was. Each of them looked similar, but you just made a jump. How do you get comfortable with that uncertainty? Is that just something that you're used to growing up, or like how do you get used to just making those decisions and being comfortable with uncertainty, not knowing if it's going to work? And how do you know if you're pointing in the right direction?
I think uncertainty is good. Like I think if you're not uncertain and you are certain, then you're not moving forward. You know what I mean? There has to be an element of like what's going on, because you're not learning then, like you're not growing. You know what I mean? Like if you know where you are all of the time and you know where you're sitting and you're happy as Larry, then you're stagnant. You know, nothing's going on. So like that's always one. I think the more, I think it relates back to like uncertainty and discomfort would probably be like intertwined there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the more discomfort you can kind of lean into, the more you're growing there. I have to say, like even when I made the decision with the gym itself, when I was like, I am moving, Dean supported me in that 100%. Like cannot fault the man there. So that was always a good one as well. You know, when your business partner for the last 2 years is backing you up on a decision that is not including him and that's splitting us up, that was always like a backbone. So I always had people support me in decisions. But then again, when you're moving, people are behind you, but there's nothing in front of you, you know? So I think like that, that uncertainty, like dealing with it, I think is, you need to lean into it. You know what I mean? Like that is you growing, like you're picking up pace there. Like something's going to come out the back end of that always, you know?
100%. Like, yeah, Jordan Peterson said like the true beauty or the true art lies in between the line between order and chaos. Like too orderly isn't good, and too chaotic isn't. I mean, that's why you probably learn so much from moving over to Dubai. But like, what have you learned about yourself setting up your own business, setting up your own gym, and moving halfway across the world?
That's a good question. I have to think deep about this one. That's a really good one. What have I learned about myself? I think one thing with which I try to pass on to a lot of my clients, like if I look at them, like all my clients and the people I have on board, like they're just a smaller product of me, you know what I mean? From spending that much time, all my values are getting projected onto them. So if I look at them, right, and I just look at like, I'll rate it back to like fitness and stuff like that. Like results from a fitness-based end of things is all like effort-based, you know what I mean? And like work ethic, like what can you actually push to get out? And I think that is something that I probably have learned about myself, is that when you're backed up against the wall and when there is something that you really want to achieve, or i.e. when you're running from something as well, you'll fucking work for it. You know what I mean? I was actually a conversation I had with another one of the lads on the mentorship there yesterday. He was going on about the uncertainty of leaving his business, his PT business, for fully online. And I was like, if your back is up against the wall and you are, you've bills coming in, you have to pay for stuff here, you have to graph for clients, you're going to work for it. You will find out another level that you probably haven't been able to click into before. So I think that's been one that I've found myself over the last few months, like putting yourself in the worst position possible that you could think of right now, which for me was leaving all my clients who used to see me every single day, albeit that some of them were online, moving out here, losing quite a lot of them then as well, but being like, right, fuck, I have to pay bills here. I have to make this work. I don't have a choice, So I think that's one. You'll always find the worse position you put yourself, you'll always find another gear there that's lingering, you know what I mean? There's always another level around that. So I think that has been probably the biggest one that I could be like, that's worked really well, 100%.
Do you think at the moment you're operating at peak performance? Are you in sixth gear, or is there more to give? Is there another gear there for you?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say there's more. There's always more high. You know what I mean? Because like I think peak performance comes and you hit it. Oh, who was talking about it? I think it was James Smith. He was on about it financially. He was like, once you hit your first 10K a month or whatever it may be, you've set the bar now for the new one. So that 10K a month becomes irrelevant if you just hit it again.
Yeah, that peak performance becomes your average performance.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just setting another bar every single time you hit it. Like, so I'm looking at where I am now, client-wise, performance-wise in the business and stuff, and I'm like, well, this needs to keep moving forward, or I'm going to start tracking back. I've already been to that realm before, you know what I mean? What's there? I've experienced that. I need a new level. You need that new performance. Like, but I think in terms of like, am I operating at peak performance to actually move the performance greater? To an extent, yeah. Like I'd say being over here has helped me go that bit of monk mode. You know what I mean? There hasn't been that much social outings and stuff. I don't live with my girlfriend either, which is great. So I have like Monday to Friday just to graft.
Don't let her hear you say that one.
Oh yeah, sorry, Ashton, sorry. Cut that out, can we? But from a performance and a business standpoint, like I think that has worked quite well. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
With that whole, like the way that I saw that with James Smith and somebody else spoke about it, it's like every time I reach a new goal, a new height, it's my new floor. Like I will never go below that, and I'm aiming for the next ceiling. My only issue with that is in my own personal life, every time that I hit a new goal, hit a new height, it becomes irrelevant. I don't take time to acknowledge it, be grateful of it, and actually be proud of myself. It's like, all right, next thing. Yeah. Just, you don't even take time to appreciate yourself, appreciate what you've achieved, and it's just on to the next. So for me, it's been a bit more, enjoying the process a bit more. Have you had any experience with that, or how?
100%, completely understand where you're coming from here. And I have to remind myself of that one quite often. And I find it a lot easier to actually manage that one because I manage it with my clients. Like when one of their biggest elements of like a week for them is going to be like a weekly win. You know what I mean? And if they've had a poor week of, say, training or nutrition, or they got caught with the illness and they land in with the check-in, they're like, no wins this week. I'm always like, there's always a win. All right, whether it be you're getting the check-in filled out, you got a session in this week, albeit it wasn't your prime target. You got your water in. There's always like, that element of like being able to celebrate something. So it's always looking at like sitting back and the glass half full kind of analogy comes well in there, you know what I mean? From that end of things. It is a difficult one to do, like, because as you said there, every time you raise the bar, like how the fuck do you celebrate that as a win if you're just going to be hitting the same thing all of the time? But I think like the more of the wins you can just keep stacking, the better you're going to keep feeling coming out the back end. There's always something to celebrate there. I think that's always a key one then as well, just even for mental well-being and keeping the energy there. Because like there are going to be weeks where you're probably going to not feel optimal, or you're not going to hit like big wins, like, but there needs to be some element of progression all of the time, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's a huge side of what you do as well, because obviously personally it's hard to celebrate the little victories, especially when you can't see them, especially if you had a shit week. when you've got someone there to shine light on it and say, look, this is a win this week, or this is that, and actually make you aware of that win is huge, you know. I suppose that's where you're stepping in and doing that too.
Yeah, that helps as well with, like, even for my own coaches, anytime I'm analysing my week, albeit like even there last week, didn't train, barely worked, barely took calls, like there was still that big win that I had to fill out. I was like, okay, I got to go dig in here. You know what I mean? I got to see what is it like. Well, I got up this morning, like not too bad. I'd say there's another one there. So like, you know, you'll always, I think it's always putting yourself in a position where you do have that time to reflect. I love reflecting. Like I think reflecting is something that everyone should put in play, because it relates back to like the question you just brought up there of like, how do you actually celebrate the wins? You'll not do it unless you do have an element of reflection in. So I think like if you have a day, an evening, something at the end of the week, like an end of week reflection that you just keep in. You used to do it great on the page where it's like, what do you call it, Liam's and your
Weekly
recap?
roundup.
Yeah, weekly roundup. Like, I think they're like so important, because when you have that element of reflection, there's always a positive, you know, and there's always a win there.
And it's even having it in the back of your mind, like last week was my week for the weekly roundup. Do you know what I mean? So for the little things I was enjoying throughout the week, I was taking a snap of this, or I was jotting down that I did this. And then you're making yourself aware that you're doing these things, that that coffee on Tuesday morning, I enjoyed that. Like, do you know what I mean? And at the end of the week, you can look back and you see it's like, oh shit, that wasn't a bad week, because I had these 6 or 7 things that I actually did enjoy, where if I didn't make myself aware of them, or I didn't jot them down, it would have just been another Friday again, another week done, and no big wins, as you say, you know?
Yeah, like it's funny how we use cameras. Like we use them to take photos of big events, so like nights out, or it might be a festival, or like a football match, and you flick back through your camera and you're like, oh, that was a really good time, that was a really good time. But you were taking photos of the little things, like a coffee, like a sunrise, like a sunset, like you fucking just in the gym, and you look back on the week back, it's just like, oh shit, like
Did a lot this week.
I had a lot this week, and you're not looking at the festivals or the holidays or whatever it may be. Do you like to do that in a certain period of the week? I know for me it's a Sunday evening, but like is that what you do? Take stock of the previous week and look towards?
I'd always do it with Ashley on a Saturday. So not that I'd actually turn around and be like, right, what's your wins for the week? But I just sit back and I'd be like, right, do I have anything actually to share with her, because I haven't seen her all week? You know, like, do I actually have anything to tell her, any good news and stuff like that? So that acts as a good one. But for my own personal one that I just keep to myself, and then my coaches as well, it's Sunday. I think the weekend is always like the best time to just be like, what the fuck happened during the week? Because like the week goes quick, and particularly dependent on like your profession and stuff like that, you know? So that's always a key one. And actually, like, a good way of looking at it as well, like I run into this with, again, a lot of my clients, is that on like a weight loss journey. So if you had somebody who lost their first kilo, right, it's a milestone. It's like, great, you know, we can do that in a week. We'll tick that off. They end up ticking it off. It's like, wow, this is deadly. They lose the next kilo. It's not as good. They lose the 3rd kilo. It doesn't feel as good still. And I'm like, oh, just keep focusing on the next one and the next one. Keep going. And they're like, I'm not seeing too much change in my photos. I'm not seeing this, that, or the other. And then I think like some of the wins that, if they're not significant enough, I think they don't have as big an impact on us until you have like a big comparison. So like 10 weeks down the line, if you compared somebody's photos on a fat loss journey, not week to week, but from week 1 to week 10, you're like, wow, that's an improvement, you know?
That's your massive win. Like,
yeah. So like reflecting on your wins on a Sunday, look at that 10 weeks down the line. Is there going to be an improvement there? What is the progression, you know?
I suppose it's having gratitude for those small wins, and that delayed gratification too, that you're allowing those small wins to compound to get to week 10 and, you know, get that massive week or get that massive win at that stage. All part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's, but when you're up so close to something, you can't really see it. So it's taking a step back and looking at it. And it sounds like if I was one of your clients and you were consistently telling me to celebrate the small little wins, by doing that, I'm just literally working my muscle of gratitude, of being grateful for the small things, being appreciative. And as a result, that's training me like for those periods where I need them the most. So yeah, a lot more goes into coaching from what you're saying, other than just the nutrition and the gym. It's more of, is it more of a lifestyle thing for you? Is it like, there's a lot of like behavioral stuff in there that's fascinating.
Yeah. It is crazy. I think like when you see a lot of the original and the old kind of viewpoint of coaching, like coaching has evolved so much. Like it is completely different than what it was like even 2, potentially 3 years ago. I think COVID was huge for it. Up until about COVID, it was just a training and nutrition program. Ever since then, it's mindset. It's, you know, behind the scenes. It's all of those wins that we talked about. It's how we feel. It's the recovery. It's everything else that's away from training and nutrition. And like oftentimes that does take the priority. Like it depends on, of course, it's all specific to the individual. Some people I wouldn't even need to touch on their health and well-being because what I'm giving them with training and nutrition looks after that. And then some other people I have to continuously work with their mental fortitude and where they actually thinking just to get them to walk into the gym, you know? So it's a pretty insane one. Again, I think like if you're ever in a coaching realm, you will meet every single type of individual. You'll never be prepared for it, but like, of course, the more experience you stack on that, the better you're going to get at doing exactly that. I think that's what everything, you know, the more experience of everything, the better you're going to get at it. Like,
absolutely. I think people have become so aware of their mindset and they're aware of how much your mindset can benefit you and how much it can hold you back as well. I suppose that leads into you coming over here. Is there any days or weeks where your own mental or your own mindset took a hit? Like, it's not an easy move over here. As you said, monk mode. Brian, you were the same coming over here. I got lucky enough that I came straight in and piggybacked off him. So was there a stage when you come over, like those first 6 months that mindset took a hit, that you had to dig yourself out of a hole? Yeah,
that's actually one thing that the mentorship has. Fair play to a lot of the lads. I'm with Coaching Concierge at the moment, and managing your emotions as a business owner is absolutely vital. And I never had experience with that because, relating back to what you mentioned there earlier about moving away with without being with a business partner for a while. Anytime I always had somebody to lean on for managing my emotions, like we were managing both of our emotions. But when I moved out here, that support network was gone, and it was a complete kind of new identity, like a new realm. That was very, very difficult. When you see, and a lot of what coaching businesses are based on, particularly online businesses, it's all numbers. Like you're running your business by numbers, financials, yes, but client numbers then as well. When you start seeing like trends downward, particularly with online, like you can lose like 5 clients in 2 days, like if you're not careful. That is very difficult because you start to think back and you're like, you know, am I not working hard enough? The doubts come in, you know, you're guilty because you might have missed maybe a day of doing the building of the business or whatever it may be. So I think that area from September to when I moved out to go fully online, which I hadn't done before, to December, I couldn't be more grateful for it because there was that many ups, there was that many downs. It helped me just build that bone in terms of like just managing the emotions around just organizing yourself on a business, like, you know what I mean? And you probably get it as well from just like deals and stuff, you know, like when something just doesn't go your way, it's like, it's more than just like, get them next time. It's like, fuck's sake, could I have done it more? Could I have done, am I allowed to curse in this? Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Could I have done, beep it out. Could I have done anything more? Could I have, you know, you doubt yourself. The first person you look toward is you, which is good. But again, like what I mentioned there earlier, like reflecting, not dwelling. And that's something I did get caught up on when I first moved out. Load of clients drop, dwelling, you know, 1 or 2 weeks, and then it's like, come on, you need to just get your act together, like, and just plow on. You know what I mean? Relating back to that as well, there's always, what is it again? The saying, there's always a high after the low, is it? Or something like that. Yeah. If it's, I can't get any worse, it can only go up from here. That's not one as well. It's literally like that.
That's the,
yeah. I find that really interesting. Like, as Liam spoke about, like I went through that kind of period of loneliness, and you really do have to dig deep through those periods. I've got a bit of an issue with the whole loneliness thing being romanticized. I think it's a dangerous trap to fall into because, I mean, through those periods of loneliness of monk mode, you get so much results. But the point of that is to go through those periods of loneliness to emerge back into society. But when you get addicted to the results of those lonely chapters, of those monk modes, then it's a trap that people can fall into of spending long periods of time in there, and they can be so much more difficult than they need to be. How have you found those periods of monk mode or loneliness, and are they difficult for you? Or
So I have to shout out Ashlyn. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet here. Wouldn't be able to do it without my girlfriend. No. No, I have to say, like, Ashley has been great. Not even from the sense that she's there. Obviously, she's there, but like, she'll turn around to me and be like, "Need to go and meet somebody," or she'd be always like, 'cause she's a social butterfly. Like, she just loves the crack. She likes, she's just, me and her be very on a different spectrum with business altogether. She likes to lie in on our Sundays. I'm like up and at it in the Sundays. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of spectrum in terms of like work, but she's happy with that, and that's what's great about her. Like, but like, if you look at, I am in complete agreement with you there, like on monk mode, because as you said, like, if you're drawn away from society and you get too comfortable in there, you're like, what's going to happen now? I don't think I've actually had an opportunity like it to stay in it for too long. Max, 3 months there when I moved out. I don't even think it was 3 months, just the guts of 3 months before I actually had, and I had maybe 1 or 2 socials like with Aisling, but outside of Aisling there was nothing. So I suppose that you're talking 6 days of the week with the head down, which I thought was absolutely fine. Then when I came back in December, it was absolutely fine when I was seeing the boys back home, like. But the question is, like, what would happen if you done it for 6 months and over? You know what I mean? I don't think I'd like to go down that route, because then you would be detached. And you'd come back and be like
a different man.
Yeah, you'd be like, what do you talk about? And I suppose I had a bit of that when I did get home. I was a bit like, what do I talk about? I hadn't seen the lads in ages, but then you pick it right back up, But if it was longer than that, like, yeah, you can't romanticize with something like that. That's just completely tearing you away from getting you back into you're doing it to get into a good position in society anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a counterproductive long year round.
I think you need that recharge though too. Like, we spoke about this so many times about that Saturday or the Sunday where you go and recharge. It mightn't be going out in the piss as much as it does be nice while you're at it, like, but just getting out and meeting people and socializing, something that you can actually switch off for. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously you've Aisling, you can go, and when you're with Aisling, I'm sure business just is gone out of your mind. But a lot of people are in a position over here where they don't have someone like that. And maybe they're doing 7 days a week, and they might be working flat out 7 days a week, but the 7 day a week, it's still in the back of their head. And I think without that day to reset and recharge, you just burn yourself out, like you're burning the candles at both ends,
I think a bodybuilding prep will tell you a lot and teach you a lot about being present, the presence of others. So like, what you just mentioned there about, like, when you're with somebody, business goes out of your head. Like, it does now, which is great. Like, but I think a bodybuilding prep will, like, help you navigate that, because it'll put you right in the balls end of it. Like, when you're doing a bodybuilding prep, it's all you think about, like, day in, day out. You will be detached from society. Like, it was when I look back at mine in 2022 when I prepped for the shows, and though I did run into a few bowel issues beforehand, so I did stop going out, didn't even go out for an off-plan meal for, I think it was 10 full months of no drink, no out, no nothing. Like, I was sorting out the bowel end of things. Then I went into prep from there, even when I got it sorted, like, so it was kind of just a double stick, so I didn't really have a choice. But that was a tough period on family, friends, and girlfriends. Not even on me, but it was more so on them. Like, your relationships will be bloody tested. There's been a lot of relationships put to the fire over a bodybuilding prep.
Angry 24/7.
100% high. But coming toward the back end of that, and I remember when you get to the back end, it's a bit of an interesting area, because your brain is that depleted of glucose, like, you don't really know what's going on, you're in a different realm altogether. But when I got close to the end, it was okay. Coming out the back end of that gave me a lot of time to actually think back and just be like, right, again, use that reflective element. Where can I improve upon for next time when I do get into ruts like that? And I think a bodybuilding prep is very much like just going monk mode at a business or something like that. You know what I mean? Because they're just two of the exact same things. So I think that has already stacked a bit of experience and a bit of habit with me, that whenever I do go to put the head down, I'm able to leave it easy enough. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not really too much. I'm not really afraid that it's going to have a detriment,
Yeah, absolutely. And you have that hindsight too. Do you know what I mean? You're able to do it. You're able to lock yourself away, and the benefits of not going full bodybuilding prep, while you're at it. Mm-hmm. I had a question actually to bring you back to it when you were saying about your sixth gear, finding that sixth gear. When you came over here and you put yourself into that monk mode, is there anything that you started doing that you weren't doing, or is there anything new that you picked up that gave you that advantage? What was your sixth gear?
The magic is in the work that you're currently avoiding. I was about to butcher that one there. But I think that's literally it. Like if you look at whenever you're doing something, whenever you want to try and like achieve something, like it's always the stuff that you're not doing. It's probably going to bring you up that extra wee bit. So like if I look back to when I moved out in September, I moved out with, just to put a bit of numbers on it so I can get a bit of perspective, I think I had 35 clients, just started dripping off. I think I was going from 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30. I was under the 30 mark, I believe, with just people leaving, people dropping out, not seeing me. Like walls started kind of crumbling there, like, you know what I mean? And that's when you're like, okay, you know, I'm below now, I'm below par now. Like I've got bills to pay, this needs to work or the business is going to fail. So there was a lot of stuff that, not necessarily that I was avoiding, but just stuff that I knew would work that I didn't really put into place. Some of the stuff probably was avoiding. So like looking back to like the business end of things, whatever I could do, because coaching is all about service, whatever I could do from a service standpoint, that's what I need to implement. You know, a lot of building a business in coaching now is outreach, you know, as you used to do the same things with like apartments and stuff. So that's all part of it. But then service standard to the clients. Are you doing live calls? Are you doing webinars for them? Do you have a group chat? Are you community building? So I think like whenever you hit a rut of, I think whenever you hit a stagnant part, or whenever you start rolling backwards in life or in business, you'll always have that opportunity to find that extra wee gear, you know? So like looking at that period, that was great. I cherish it. I'm like, thank God it happened, because then I wouldn't have moved forward again. Coming into December, I think I lost 14 clients, I think. That was down from service delivery again. Stuff I was probably avoiding. All the way through December, improved, upgraded. You know, coming into January then, up to 45 clients. So like, you know, you always, whenever it comes to like performance end of things, I think you always just need to have those wobbles. Like you always need to have those bad areas, because then you'll sit back and you'll be like, there's an area I need to prove on here. Like there's an area I can run up.
With those things that you knew you weren't doing and you just needed to check yourself and give yourself a kick up the arse, or did you have to dig for new things, new ways of doing things that you didn't know were out there?
I knew about them, but I wasn't doing them. Now, it wasn't that I was yes, I was actually, sorry. Half of them, like, yeah, the majority of stuff I was specifically being told to do. The majority of stuff then I just was not doing because I didn't really know about it at the time. Like, I think like whenever it comes to that, I think like when you're trying to find like different gears and just keep moving forward at a quick pace, fuck me, it's the basics that all get you there. You know what I mean? Like you can spice things up, and like you can always add in different flavors, like, and it will make it that bit better. But if you're just consistent at the fucking basics,
compounding them little things,
100%, man, like that is where it all is. Like, so that's been like, there's been a lot of, it's never a loss, like it's always a lesson when it comes to that kind of crack. And then if you're stacking your lessons and you're learning from it, that performance, hey, it just keeps on trickling up. Like, you're going to be moving the right way, you know?
Yeah, speaking about kind of moving in the right way, like have you always been aiming towards something, like as in like what is like kind of, is there a grand vision there, or is it just, as you spoke about earlier, just you're operating with your back against the wall sometimes? It's like you're running away from something. Like, are you, like, I always say that there's always something you should be running towards and running away from. And some people talk about motivation and these goals and things they're running towards. But for me personally, I haven't realized how much I've just been running away from stuff that I don't want in my life. And as a result, I've just gone to the right direction by default. Is that like, do you have a grand vision? Do you have a big goal, or is it something that you're running away from?
Yeah. I think that viewpoint is so interesting. Like, I think the running away from something is always so cool. I think we chatted about that not too long ago about the experiment with them that was done with the rats, of the pulling away and the pulling for, you know.
It can't be a podcast episode without that. If it's not us, it's Mark and Paddy.
Has to be in it. Yeah. But like, I think that is like, it's always a key one. Like, you know, you'll see that everywhere. You see it everywhere with somebody who's doing something. There's always something that they run away from. Like, I think now if I talk about where I am now, I think like I have found a passion, have found a purpose. I do have a vision now. Now I'm like, well, you know, I'm currently training a coach to come on board and for my first hire. You know, there's that happening. There's a bit more of a vision from like what I'm doing inside the business. Like I have ideas now, but it wasn't always like that. I think until you get to a certain position, it's very difficult to look forward and even try and think of what's going to happen in 3 to 6 months. You know what I mean? I think it's always a case of you can always see back. And for me, like in moving out here years ago when we started up the PT, it was always just financial related more so, like, you know. I think it was always just the financial security for me was always a big one. That was always a huge driver, particularly when I was over prep, when I was over opening the gym, before that, even with the PT. Like my mom and dad would have been never in a great spot, like financially, like they would have having a few run-ins with business and stuff. So there wasn't too much support there. So whenever I was trying something new, it was like, right, you know, you have to work here. Now I wasn't putting half the effort in I am now, like 2 years ago, you know what I mean? But making a big move with like moving countries, like I think that's, you can't do anything more difficult than that. You know, with something new then as well, you'll be running away with you're running away from whatever it is, like, you know, and that for me was going to be just financial. I was like, that's a big pushing factor. Now at the moment, like it still is, but now I have that vision forward. Now I'm like, right now I can be like, I want to try and grow a coaching team. I want to try and grow the brand more. I want to try and actually do stuff with the coaching. So it's not, I think that the pull forward is nearly stronger than the push back from behind. The pull from the, there we go, that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Pull from the front is nearly stronger than the push from behind now at the moment, you know?
But that trajectory, that's the one, trajectory, started off as a push factor.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it always does, like, doesn't it?
I think so,
Like
yeah.
the start is always like, all right, I need to keep my head above water here,
Yeah.
and just need to pay the rent. Like it's the whole like
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like it's like you can't even start focusing on the next thing when you're stressed about rent or stressing about whatever. So yeah, you need the core fundamental things. You need your head above water, and then you can just open your eyes and be like, oh, actually, I now I get the liberty to actually choose what I want to do or where I want to go. Like for so long, it's just head above water kind of stuff.
I love that one. Like you talk to anyone who has done something, like 99% of the people, like coaches that I've spoken to, people you even see online, like the likes of James Smith, Chris Williamson, like they all have a backstory of what it is like they were struggling with way back when. And you all see them now, like, and it's not that they're still running away from that. They've found their passion, like, you know what I mean? The purpose has happened for them. And now you've got a pulling factor from the front. I think that's always like key. If you can get yourself into a position, and that just relates back to what we were talking about earlier, like when you're getting yourself into that position where there's going to be that pulling factor from the front, you're going to have to deal with a shitload of insecurity and uncertainty and not knowing if it's going to work. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be loads of that, but that's all part and parcel. It's all part and parcel. Like it's normal.
When you were starting off as PT, or even at the stage you're at now, did you find or did you feel any imposter syndrome?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. That's another one that I was talking to, I can't remember his name now, but I was chatting to him about it in the group. And I like imposter syndrome's good, like, because I think it relates back to like that whole doubt and that fear of the unknown, and more so like the discomfort. I think it's just a lot of discomfort, you know what I mean? Just that you think you don't know what you're doing, but if you know what you're doing, then there's probably something wrong, because it means you're not moving forward. You know, the person who's sitting there and dealing with the imposter syndrome is most likely continually trying to educate themselves so they don't feel like that, and they're moving forward at a quick pace. For the person who doesn't feel like they have imposter syndrome, most likely just stagnant because they don't care, they think they know it all. You know what I mean? So I think imposter syndrome can be great. And James Smith, or was it Chris Williamson, at their talk said it perfect. I'm not sure if you remember this one. He was like, use your insecurities as your strength, or use them as your driving force. So whatever you're insecure about, whether it be your knowledge around something, whether it be financials, lean into it. You know, lean into that insecurity, because that'll be a driving force then behind you. If you are sitting there and you're having imposter syndrome, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't feel as I'm as educated as I should be, then you're going to lean into that and you'll go and educate yourself. You know what I mean? So that can be a huge driving force.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose if you don't have it, you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if you're comfortable, you're not moving forward.
Yeah.
So it is all just one big vicious circle at the end of the day.
Yeah.
have to feel like shit all the time, you know? As you said, just punish yourself. Go home and whip myself now. I'll leave.
Back, make the journey more difficult. But like the recurring theme, like that keeps coming up during this conversation is that uncertainty. It's that dealing with uncertainty. And you reminded me of that. It makes me in my head be like, oh yeah, like you're actually not supposed to have it all figured out. Like it being uncertain, me feeling uncertainty it's a symptom that I'm going in the right direction. It's a symptom that this is how it's supposed to feel, because if everything was worked out, then there would be no creativity. I would know where I'm going. There's no chance of me making whatever, because it's, as you said, comfortable. So yeah, that's powerful. Like that uncertainty, it's something that isn't really spoke about enough.
No. And I think like even if you spoke to any person who has fitness business or whatever it may be, there's always going to be an element of that, like, you know, and like me and Dean used to say it all the time. People used to come into the gym and they'd be like, geez, you're doing quite well. We'd be like, are we? Yeah. You know, it's like, what? Are we actually? Yeah. Sure, even when you text me to go on this podcast, I was like, am I? What the fuck do you want to talk to me about?
What do I have to say?
That's the imposter syndrome.
That's it, you see, you know. So I think everyone gets it. And I think it's such a good thing, because to be honest, like if you're not feeling it, and I could only imagine me meeting somebody, and I have met people like that in the past, and they think they know it all, like, you know what I mean? And it's a bit like, you're just you're a tool, you know what I mean? You have so much ahead of you that you could be doing that you're not, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I suppose that's what they say, like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
Room's not big enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're in that position and you're the grateful and you know everything, in the wrong fucking room, like.
Yeah.
Do you know?
That's actually a big one. That's actually a huge one as well. Whenever you're looking to elevate yourself, like you need to put yourself in with other people who are ahead of you.
Absolutely. And that's one of the main reasons we do this too. Do you know what I mean? When I speak to people like you, other people that are on the same journey, because your journey is going to be a lot different than our journey.
Yeah.
Similar but different. Do you know what I mean? So what are you feeling? How did you deal with X, Y, and Z? You know, when we encounter them, we can deal with it in this way. So if you encounter what we've dealt with, you can deal with it in this way. And just speaking to people that are ahead of you and that are doing things differently, and trying to get a bit of perspective, you know. Blank canvas at the end of the day.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, so like, I suppose to wrap this up, like what does like success mean to you? Like what does that look like for you?
That's a good one.
It can be hard to define.
Can be hard to define, yeah. I think it's different for every person, isn't it?
What does success look like for a personal training accountant?
Definitely not doing accountancy anyway. Having the degree but not doing it. I think like success to me just, I think it's like the constant pursuit of progression. Like once I'm in that, I'm successful, you know what I mean? The point at where I can't pursue progression, I think that's going to be a tough time for me. That is all the wobbles that I do run into whenever I can't progress the business, the relationships, family, whatever it may be. That's where I find the wobbles. But I think success to me is just that continuous pursuit of progression. Just keep progressing, you know?
When you feel you can't progress anymore, obviously your mindset's not going to change. You know what I mean? You'll always be looking for that progression.
Yeah.
Is that not when you've succeeded though?
What is succeeded though?
Yeah, it depends on what definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. Like obviously if success is for you to keep finding that progression, and I suppose if that's your success, you'll
always find
a way.
I don't think there's anyone who has, particularly like when I look at, I think relating back to what you mentioned there a minute ago, like when you're looking at people in a bigger room and trying to elevate yourself up, once you keep looking at somebody who's 5 or 10 steps ahead of you, and even when you get up to that step and you find somebody else who is another 5 or 10 steps ahead of you, I think there's always going to be that continuous pursuit of progression.
Bigger fish, somewhere.
100% high, 100%. Like I look at the biggest coaches that I'm in the mentorship with, and some of them are earning like 100K a month, and I'm like, yeah, you know, you say, when are you going to get to that? Like, you know, I'll be happy when I get up to that, but then there's probably always another level.
They probably have coaches.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
You know, goalposts are always moving.
That's it. What are they fucking chasing? 150 grand a month? You know what I mean?
But if you're, yeah, if your definition of success is enjoying the progression, enjoying the constant progression, and not fixated on the goalpost that inevitably will keep moving, then you hit the nail on the head there. Then you're just constantly enjoying the journey and not fixated on this end goal. So
yeah,
I think that's massive.
That's probably one of the best descriptions so far, I think. Because like if because if that's it, if your success is the journey and you're enjoying the journey,
yeah.
I mean, you're succeeding every step of the way, then you're laughing, you know.
Yeah, you'll never fall behind that, like, you know.
100%.
Is that your tough question? I have to throw one at him now.
No, that's just my question.
I had one lined up. Actually, one I wanted to ask. One I asked you was a couple of weeks ago about when we were speaking about compounding all the small things and getting that 1% better every week. Put you on the spot now. What's the 1% you did last week to make yourself better for this week?
Whoa.
Last week's probably a bad example because you were sick.
Oh yeah. But I know what you mean. From a weekly basis.
What's move the needle?
What is moving the needle for me? Yeah. At the moment, every week. The dirty work in coaching is 100%. The stuff you don't want to do. The outreach, the proposing the calls, the lead magnets, the stuff you don't get paid for. Yeah. You know, it's all the dirty work. I think that's probably one that I've picked up off Mark Coles. For anyone to be in a position where you're moving in the right direction, you have that constant pursuit of progression, like there's going to be dirty work along the way. So I think that's always something that I've been doing now recently, consistently, week on week. That's been moving the needle forward, you know, for me. So that has been my element, doing the dirty work, man.
The work that requires that delayed gratification.
100%, man.
Yeah, literally doing the work that is required.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that so interesting. It's just like, just do it regardless of how you feel. Don't want it. Like I might want to do it, might not want to do it. Literally just do what's required.
Yeah. Key, absolute key. Anywhere.
Fact. So Leon, appreciate you coming on, man. Where can everybody find you?
Leon McKeowan _coaching. And then for my accounting,
Pitman. Pitman, if I remember correctly. Look at that.
That was the nickname.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On is this to find you on Instagram?
That's to find me on Instagram. I do have YouTube. Will be up and coming soon. Just at Leon McKeowan. So it's sitting there ready to go. But Leon McKeowan _coaching. Then if you want to have a look at the actual coaching brand, it's LMK _ online, where we have all the results. We have all the team up on.
Nice.
Let's go. Leon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Learned a load, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Till next time.
Next time, boys.
Next time.